We have details of these stories and more coming up shortly. Do stay with us.
You're going heavy on politics and starting from the camp of the New Patriotic Party, where the National Council of the NPP says it will not allow any division within the party. This comes after concerns of unfairness following a party statement barring national, regional and constituency executives and MMDCEs from contesting sitting members of parliament in the party's parliamentary primaries. Judith Awachitando reports.
Party NPP has settled on November 4, 2023 to hold a presidential primary to elect a flag bearer for the 2024 general elections and February 4 for parliamentary primaries. However, the National Council has barred national, regional and constituency party executives from contesting the constituencies where the party already has sitting members of parliament. While this may be good news for some MPs who have time and again called for protection, others believe it is somewhat unfair.
I think there's been a normal practice. Last 4 years, MMDCs were not allowed to contest. I think the addition has to do with the constituency officers, and I would want to really see the reasons for that, because there are constituency officers who have the capacity to also be members of parliament, and if they intend to contest, I feel that they should be allowed to do that.
National organizer of the party, Henry Nanaya Bwache, however, says the rationale behind this decision is to avoid division within the party.
We wanted to avoid any rancor, any division, any infighting, because when you consider the MMDCs, they are in the constituencies. They even manage the MP's common fund. So as a party, if we want to go that line, it means that we'll be creating a problem between the MP, the MMDCs, and the constituency party.
But while addressing the issues, there are other pertinent issues the party sought to clear. With government still seeking an IMF bailout, there have been unending calls for a cut down on its size. And the introduction of 3 new tax bills has further intensified the calls. National chairman of the party, Stephen Ntim, at a press conference, however, says the party has already made significant expenditure cuts.
Between this government's first and second terms, the number of ministers and deputy ministers has been significantly reduced from 126 to 86. This is because we are a listening government.
While reiterating the age-old claim of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war being the cause of the economic downturn, Stephen Ntim says the NPP-led government has diligently managed the economy.
The plain truth is that this government has managed the economy diligently and well. The hardships we are experiencing in Ghana are being experienced everywhere because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war.
Whereas the opposing views, the party is sure its government will fix the economy soon enough to break the 8. As to whether or not these claims are the reality, Ghanaians might have to judge for themselves. Judith Awachitando, TV3 News.
We're staying on this subject matter a while longer. Joining us via Zoom is political scientist Dr. Asante to understand what kind of implications could arise from this directive by the national chair of the NPP. Good evening, Doc, and thank you for your time.
Good evening, my brother, and good to hear from you.
Right, to start with, if you've been following, it is expected that as a democratic party or a party that believes in the tenets of democracy, everyone should be allowed to contest irrespective of whichever position they hold, especially if they are members of the party. What are your immediate thoughts on this, that because we do not want, those persons to be contested, all these individuals have been barred from, putting in their bid?
If you look at it, I am not surprised because this idea, I don't know whoever is the source of the idea, we saw that in 2020, where they literally prevented some people within the party to contest constituencies that they had MPs. For me, that is a very difficult situation they are taking by the party. And it's nothing but it's going to undermine the fortunes of the party. Why am I saying that? I listened to Nana Boachi, who said that the whole idea behind this is to prevent rancor, division, and all that. I'm afraid, Mr. The gentleman, what he tried to prevent is exactly what is going to happen. You are going to deepen the problems within the party as you prevent people who are legally qualified to contest for a party they love, they serve over the years, and they want to grow within the party. If you have such a situation, you are preventing people from growing within the party, growing into positions that they desire. In politics, there are aspirations and desires, and people work towards that. That's why they remain faithful to the party, work through the ranks, and then get to the highest, where they can also express their interests in various forms, including contesting for election and be voted for. And so if you prevent that, you are going to incur their wrath. You are going to create a division in the party. If there is no division, you are going to create one. If there is, you are going to deepen it. And that is going to undermine the fortunes of the party. Remember, your choice, they are going to make sure that they sabotage the party, and then it's going to create a problem for them. So I don't think this idea will inure to the benefit of a party which is eager to break their eight. I'm afraid to say this, but this is going to cause them a lot of problems.
Right, and Doc, in the same vein, so then how would you advise the party to go about it? Really and truly, they want to focus on constituencies that do not have NPP MPs who are incumbent. So how do they go about this so they do not incur the wrath, as you're saying, of other members of the party?
You allow everybody who is legally qualified to stand for election and compete. And that, let's see those who win. If you win, the loser will accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game. And whoever has won, is giving support and then being the representative of the party for the elections. That is the way to go. But if you want to prevent others, I am afraid you are going to incur the wrath of the party, and the whole machinery at the base of the party will come at them. I can assure them, I can tell them without fear of contradiction. So they must run away quickly from this idea and make sure that they open the frontiers for everybody to create that equal playing field for everybody to contest and then express him or herself. Whoever wins, that's the end.
Right. And finally, before you take leave, we know that the NDC some time back also gave similar advice to some members that constituencies that have sitting members of parliament should not be contested. Is that, I mean, from where you said, do you think there should be some jaw in making it a part of our democracy, in as much as we know that democracy would mean allow everyone capable and qualified to contest? This is also something that could be introduced to cut costs and to cut down the acrimony that you are saying could arise.
Yeah, you don't cut costs and then create a problem for the party. In any case, the cost they are talking about, where is the cost? Election generally is expensive. All that you need is that you need to manage your resource very well and allow people to contest for the election. But where you want to deprive people, all right, you create pain and then differences within the party. And it doesn't bode well for any party looking for political power. If you have power and you want to retain it, it's not good for you. If you don't have and you are looking for power, it's not good for you. Whatever way you look at it is wrong, and wrong ab initio. So I believe that this type of thing, sometimes there is a bogus argument that, there are experienced people in parliament. They are people who have worked over the years and then they have endeared themselves to the hearts of many within parliament. The rest of them, they are so experienced. Nobody was born in parliament. People are born in their homes, they work within parties, and by dint of hard work, they get the opportunity to serve their people in parliament. So everybody gets there, and the socialization process in parliament will shape that person, and the person becomes a material for his party, his nation, and the world. So any effort at stifling that, attempts by people who want to really contest for election must be jettisoned and thrown away.
Thank you so much for your time, as always, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, Political Science Lecturer, University of Ghana.
And the NPP's decision is seen by some as a move to protect certain MPs in the current hung parliament. Some party members are of the view it should have been extended to all government appointees. William Evansinkum has been following this development.
Winning power for the first time in 2020 saw what many would describe as a political tsunami for most of the members of parliament. But let's even focus on some of the popular constituencies within the Kumasi or the greater Kumasi political enclave. And here we're talking about Bantama constituency. Ochema Buaju, of course, lost his seat during the primaries to Asensu Buachi, who was then the deputy chief of staff. Then, of course, we move to the Ajoso constituency, one of the powerhouses of the ruling New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region. Dr. John Kuma also won over Owusu Aduomi. But in terms of a regional executive member winning against a certain MP, the first case was recorded in the Inshayoso constituency in the year 2015. When the former member of parliament for Inshayoso constituency, Kennedy Kankam, who is now the municipal chief executive for Askore Mampon, won during the primaries against Dr. Richard Anane, the former roads and highways minister and the former health minister under the erstwhile John Ajekum Kufuor administration. Article 12 on the NPP constitution, which focuses on the selection of parliamentary candidate for the party, is not explicit as to an executive member of the party either at the constituency, regional or polling station level contesting a certain MP or an MMDCE contesting a certain MP. But when it comes to Article 13 of the NPP constitution, which focus on the selection of a presidential primaries for the ruling New Patriotic Party, it is explicit that if you are MMDCE, if you are a polling station executive, you are a regional executive or a constituency executive, the party bars you from contesting.
We're staying on politics, but this time shifting to the camp of the National Democratic Congress, and the party has indefinitely postponed the vetting of John Dumelo and two other aspirants in the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency. The party said it is to allow them address some internal issues.
For the second straight day, perhaps the most anticipated vetting in the Greater Accra region did not happen. The NDC postponed the vetting of actor John Dumelo and his estranged close friend Fred Nyama and Moses Befi Achampon. TV3 learns that the party will make a decision on how to proceed after the deadline for vetting on April 5. The constituency has attracted huge interest after actor John Dumelo declared his intention to run again. He lost in the 2020 election to Lydia Seyram Alhassan. The intrigue around the constituency has been heightened by the decision of Fred Nyama to contest the same seat, triggering a bitter war of words between himself and Dumelo, who were close friends. There was vetting for 37 aspirants from 10 other constituencies across the region, but no major surprises. Among the 37 candidates were the daughter of the late businessman and former MP of the Kolekulati constituency, David Lamte, Nakai Lamte, who has been cleared to take on the sitting MP, and daughter of former President Jerry John Rawlings, Zineto Ajman Rawlings.
I don't think I have any fears. You know, I know my people. My people know me. I've mingled with them. I have been with them. They have access to me. I know what they want. They know what I want. They've called me to come and serve them. So I don't think that there should be any reason why I should fear. I'm here to serve my people in truth, in humility, and in honesty. So there are no fears whatsoever.
The vetting process in the National Democratic Congress will end on Wednesday as hundreds of candidates seek to enter Parliament on the party's ticket. In the northern region, 59 aspirants are expected to complete the vetting process to contest 18 slots available within the party.
In more news tonight, the Ghana Joint Business Consultative Forum has warned government not to sacrifice the survival and development of the private sector for the sake of an IMF bailout. It insists the business community is already overburdened with taxes, and further taxes will have rippling effect on the businesses and the consuming public. George Queenan reports.
24 years investment in car dealership business is becoming meaningless to Roland Essien, owing to prevailing challenges. His car imports have reduced drastically. He can sit at the garage for weeks without engaging a single customer.
Cars that we sell maybe 120,000, we are forced to sell it 220,000, 240,000 because everything has increased. The dollar, duties, we have more taxes that have been introduced at the harbor.
Even this customer here could not afford a 2011 Toyota RAV4 selling at 130,000 cedis. Before the reversal of the benchmark value policy on import duties and the introduction of some port duties, you could acquire the same car for 70,000 cedis. He fears if nothing much is done, he may have to say goodbye to his business.
Sometimes you have to sell at a cost. Well, you need the money even to buy food, to pay your children's school fees. And if your car is there and your children are not going to school, you are not feeding them, you have to reduce the car and sell it and get some money. Now, we don't sell for profit. We are just doing business.
The concerns of Roland Essien have been amplified by the Ghana Joint Business Consultative Forum in its latest meeting.
15-plate battery that they used to pay a duty per unit, 250 or 200 something Ghana cedis at the port. Now it's 350 just to clear one battery. So if you have a container, 20-footer container, that has maybe 1,000 or 1,500 of those times. So you pay 350 times. That's how bad the whole thing is.
The forum has vehemently registered its disapproval of the passage of the excise duty, growth and sustainability levy, and income tax amendment bills by Parliament, explaining that the business community is already overburdened with taxes.
Parliament failed to listen to the concerns and pleas of the people and rather listen to themselves, forgetting that they represent the interest of their constituents, including the Ghanaian business community.
These are part of government plans to mobilize about 4 billion cedis in domestic revenue annually. But for the forum that consists of bodies including GUTA, Importers and Exporters Association, Ghana Federation of Labourers, Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, government failed to engage the business community over the new taxes.
Government should not sacrifice the survival and development of the private sector for the sake of the IMF program. The efforts of the IMF to support our national economy will amount to nothing if it ends up destroying local businesses.
The forum expects government not to continue to use the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war as an excuse for the ailing economy, but rather adopt innovative measures which will promote socio-economic development. The hardship of the business community continues unabated. Should government continue to implement the new 3 taxes that have been passed by Parliament, it would compound the woes of the business community, particularly for Mr. Roland Essien, who is even struggling to sell a car in a month. Josh Queenan, TV3 News, Jolu, Accra.
Let's go to the Ashanti region now. A day after a clash with the Ashanti regional minister, caterers in charge of the school feeding program have declared a strike effective tomorrow, April 5. The aggrieved caterers have been protesting against the current 97 peswa feeding grant and long-standing arrears.
It's been a chaotic few days for the school feeding program in the Ashanti region. Unhappy about outstanding payments stretching back to 3 months. In some cases, the caterers have been in agitating mood this week.
We cooked 2020 for the COVID food. They paid some, they didn't pay some. We lamented a lot, it didn't reach anywhere. And now we've also cooked 3 terms. They only paid 1. And even that one, they didn't pay the full amount. Meanwhile, we all bear witness to last year, how food prices went up. They didn't consider us.
Those protestations led them to the premises of the regional minister's office. Simon Osen-Mensah was having none of that. Now, that has angered the traders even more, who say they are withdrawing their services with immediate effects.
Waiting for the next payment and the increment as well. And we also want to hear from our gender ministry. What is the new development? What are they going to tell us? What are we expecting? What should we expect? So without that, I don't think we will cook.
This could mean significant feeding problems for many schools in the region.
This means that the purpose for which the school feeding program was introduced will be defeated. One, to check truancy, and of course, to also motivate children.
But it is unlikely the strike will force the regional minister into rethinking his stance. He says while he sympathizes with the caterers over the delay in payments, he completely disagrees with their mode of protest.
I think this country, we must be truthful to ourselves. We must be truthful to ourselves and stop pampering people. The impunity is too much. I sympathize with them. I will not be happy for the government to owe me for maybe months, when maybe I've borrowed and interest is accruing, and maybe I cannot even feed my family. But we should not use illegality to solve problems.
In the meantime, with things deadlocked, many kids could go hungry during school hours.
Let's now go to the Upper East region, where the Member of Parliament for Bawku Central, Mahama Yariga, has condemned the attack on immigration officers stationed at the Bawku area, leading to the death of one of them. Assistant Inspectors Philip Mote, stationed at Misiga, Lawrence Safari, stationed at Kulungugu, and Eric Eidia, stationed at Bulmakum border post, were attacked by unknown gunmen Monday evening. Assistant Inspector Philip Mote reportedly died while the two other officers are receiving treatment. The lawmaker called for an in-depth investigation into the incident to identify the perpetrators to face the law, and called on government to be proactive in advancing a lasting peace process in Bawku. Meanwhile, the Upper East Regional Security Council says it is investigating the attacks. The regional minister, Stephen Yakubu, in a telephone interview stated the unwarranted attack on people in the Bawku area cannot be tolerated any longer.
So this is exactly what happened. Around 8 o'clock in the night in Bawku. But prior to that, there were gunshots as usual. Gunshots in Bawku happened earlier on. It was after that this incident also happened. Very, very unfortunate. And I can tell you that this is basically in my time as a regional minister, and I think also for a very long time, that government workers, unfortunately has been targeted. But we think that it wasn't something that was targeted, something maybe it was just, same bullet. That hit them. But unfortunately, one part. In Bawku, it's very difficult to be able to explain why sometimes even people decide to take their guns and start shooting. We all know that the place has been very stable in terms of security. But we don't know. We are still trying to find out were they targeted, why these three individuals, the person know them, what happened. We don't know. We are trying very hard, the security services is trying very hard to get to the bottom of it. And we will get to the bottom of it. And then the perpetrators will be caught and brought to justice. So.
On to some other stories this evening. Two organized labor unions insist that the payroll monitoring by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is a complete waste of government funds and other resources. To the Health Services Workers Union and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers Ghana, it is a duplication of functions, as a similar exercise have already been undertaken or conducted by Finance Ministry and the Controller and Accountant General's Department.
The exercise is to check payroll fraud and also to reduce government wage bill of 15.2 billion cedis expended on over 700,000 public sector workers. The Director General of the Internal Audit Agency, Dr. Eric Odrosai, has cited the education and the whole sector payrolls as overbloated.
There are instances where people have made themselves car contractors. They give out car documents for people to use to access car maintenance allowance. Once they get their names on the payroll, they send a document back, and that is it. We are going after all such people. Please, if the vehicle does not belong to you, make sure you don't bring it for car maintenance allowance. DVLA will be working with DVLA for continual justification of ownership of vehicles to enable you get government car maintenance allowance.
But the president of the Coalition of Concerned Teachers, Kinali Awudu, disagrees.
When it comes to Ghana Education Service, which monies at all do we take that everybody wants to put an eye on Ghana Education Service? I don't really get it. I don't get it. And they do these things, and teachers will leave classroom for a day or two trying to get their documents verified. And contact hours are affected. About last 3 years ago, Auditor General Department did a similar thing. I did mine at Accra Academy. Teachers will come and queue, and the day will end, and it will not get to his turn to get his documents verified. So the next day, he will leave classroom again. 2 days, 3 days in a row, contact hours will be affected. So where are the ghosts? Where are the ghosts that we've been talking about all these years? That they have verified the payroll, and verify, and still cannot get that ghost. Maybe it is the Holy Ghost. You can't see it.
General Secretary of the Health Services Workers Union, Frank Lewis-Wansan, cautioned against mistakenly deleting names of workers.
If it is unapproved, first of all, let's find out how did that get onto the structure? Who did that? Who approved of it? Is this something the person deserves? If they have finished everything and they have realized it is unapproved, for that one I don't have any problem. But they should not rush to clean up innocent people. That is my worry. He said give fuel to level 20, 21, and 22. We are still fighting for level 23 though. 24 has. The question is, if you say anybody who is on this level, give the person fuel, why then do you say the person has a car or not? Because it's a condition of service which is attached to a position.
He dismissed claims that some staff are receiving undeserving salaries and allowances. Monitoring exercise will be conducted across the country.
In more news tonight, owners of broken down vehicles left unattended to on highways from tomorrow, Wednesday, April 5, will be prosecuted. The National Road Safety Authority, which gave this directive, blamed major road accidents to such situations.
The National Road Safety Authority says it is worried about the increasing number of disabled or abandoned vehicles on the nation's highways and has cautioned owners of such vehicles of sanctions. Clause 21 of the Road Traffic Act 2004, Act 683, says an owner of a motor vehicle or trailer or a person in charge of a motor vehicle or trailer which has broken down on a roadway and who does not cause the immediate removal of the motor vehicle or trailer from the roadway commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 250 penalty units or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 12 months or to both. The authority says effective 5th April 2023, it will liaise with the Ghana Police Motor Traffic and Transport Department to compulsorily remove the broken down vehicles or trailers to a safer location and surcharge the owner with the cost of removal and storage. Owners of broken down vehicles and trailers have been advised to immediately place approved advanced warning triangles, one at the front and another at the rear of the vehicle, and contact the nearest road safety office or police station for assistance. They can also call 194 for the Road Safety Information Center, 112 or 0800 555 for general emergency contact, or 0800 772 772. You're still watching News 360 on TV3. Stay with us. When we return, we have business for you.
And Della Michelle is here for the latest in the world of business. Della, let me first congratulate you and the 3 Business team for that sustainability summit that you had today. And you have details of that, right?
We do. We do have details. And I want to thank everybody, including Media General, ASEP, and Imani. Of course, it was a collaborative effort. But let's get into the details. As panelists at the 3 Business Economic Sustainability Summit say the country needs to rethink how to tackle the perennial economic crisis that often requires a bailout from the International Monetary Fund. They observed a lack of planning for emergencies and overspending are to be blamed for the current economic crisis. The 3 Business Economic Sustainability Summit, which was in association with Africa Center for Energy Policy and Imani Africa, was to generate a consensus on an effective long-term sustainable debt management structure. It was also to generate a consensus on a pathway for managing the impact of the debt restructuring program on the economy. The executive chairman of law firm AB and David Ofusudote, said intervention programs by successive governments have largely served politicians' parochial interests rather than providing meaningful relief to the people.
When leaders fail and we blame followers did not check them, it gives the leaders too much comfort. We ought to re-examine our mindset. I once actually tweeted something about the fact that where you have state-owned enterprises not doing well in the public sector hands, and we privatize them, and they equally collapsed, the elite must re-examine their mindset. There's something wrong with our mindset. We actually stopped thinking long ago in this nation.
The executive chairman of Cleve and Tobe, Senyo Hosi, has urged citizens to be responsible for their socio-economic development by holding politicians to account. He said the silence of the masses has allowed state actors to get away with almost everything, and that is why the economic challenges keep recurring. Senyo Hosi urged all stakeholders to track government behavior when it comes to revenue utilization.
For us to transform this economy, we need to have a collective economic agenda, something that's missing in Ghana. Who knows our strategy out of our economic challenges today? Who knows what the plan is? You see, and these are educated people. We don't know. You need to communicate down, and we need a national consensus on our economic strategy. And we must demand that from our government. So whether it's NDC or it's MPP, this is the agenda for transformation. You must prosecute it and deliver it.
The Economic Sustainability Summit, a collaboration between 3 Business, Africa Center for Energy Policy and Imani Africa, was under the theme Ghana's Debt Crisis, Striking the Balance Between Economic Growth and Fiscal Responsibility.
Well, let's just stay on the summit as participants at the just ended 3 Business Sustainability Summit want government to use the tax policy to grow the private sector in order to create an enabling environment. They were reacting to the revenue bills that were recently passed in Parliament.
We talk more about the private sector being the engine of growth and do exactly the opposite. 2023, we have increased the VAT rate. So if you look at the tax environment alone, it's not enabling. It's not conducive for private sector to actually grow. And actually, if we continue like this, increasingly companies will relocate to neighboring countries like Côte d'Ivoire, right, and the rest of them.
At the critical time we are in recession, it's not the time to introduce new taxes that will hurt businesses. It's time to introduce policies that will spur production, increase productivity, allow more people to get opportunity to work. Remember, IMF is going to restrict net employment. So if the restrictions come, our only hope of jobs for our people is the private sector.
They want the citizenry to hold policymakers more accountable on their performance.
This should become something like a blueprint for common sense talk and common sense conversations, not just the hard data as was presented, but you also witness the lively conversations, the panel conversation that essentially spoke about the data that has been presented. And I think that marriage between data and what I call common sense economics is what we need in our lives almost every day.
It was a really good meeting, trying to highlight some of the governance issues that we need to address beyond an IMF program. And it is clear that if we don't change our ways, IMF program will not solve our problems. Even before we exited the last program, we were deemed unsustainable, where the risk of debt distress was still high. And tracking it, we see a lot of governance challenges, procurement, institutional efficiency, to be able to deal with these things. We have to hold leadership accountable.
The 3 Business Economic Sustainability Summit is on the theme Ghana's debt crisis, striking the balance between economic growth and fiscal responsibility.
So the conversation definitely is not ending with the summit. We'll be following through to get more reactions and, of course, from government on some of the issues that have been raised. But let's move away from that. Former Finance Minister Seth Terkper says despite attempts to restructure the country's debt, it is important for government to keep an eye on arrears. Speaking in an exclusive interview with 3 Business, Mr. Terkper said the huge arrears that have saddled the country's finances need to be adequately catered for in order to avoid another crisis.
There is a government report called the Public Expenditure Performance Report, or PE Expenditure, Review Performance Report, which, was published, which shows that we are sitting on a pipeline, which includes contracts that have been awarded, some of which are strictly not arrears, of 77 billion. Out of which 24 billion has been paid as at the end of 2021. We are saying that our scrutiny of the fiscal numbers in the budget does not seem to suggest that we are making adequate provision to clear them within the 3 years of the IMF program. That's the point we are making. Now, if we are not making adequate provision, then remember what I said. It means that we may not be adding adequately to the cash deficit, and it may come to hunters, as it has.
And that's all the business news we have for you this evening. Log on to 3news.com for more business news. My name is Della Michelle. The sports news after this break with Thierry Nyan. Stay with us.
Welcome back to News 360. Time now for sports. Thierry Nyan is with us. We know that the league is ongoing right now, the EPL.
Yes,
Chelsea,
yes.
Liverpool, 2 bottom table,
mid-table clubs.
Yeah,
and you didn't have to stress that, considering Man United are out of the top 4.
How?
But, yeah, you are out of the top 4.
Okay, you.
Anyway, so it's time for us to bring you the latest in the world of sports right here on News 360 with me, Thierry Nyan. And former sporting director of PSV, that's Frank Arnesen, has opened up on how he discovered Ronaldo. That's original Ronaldo. The 66-year-old reveals it was a difficult task fending off competition for the Brazilian superstar.
And I had a list of players because our scouts have been there in '94. So I look about this guy, and there was Ronaldo. There were so many good players on the list, Rivaldo, and name it now. But Ronaldo, he was. We have seen him on tape, and we saw him, our scouts, and so I was watching him. And then they said he has signed a contract for Inter Milan. So I said, okay, we can get him. It was in January. Then I went down again in March, and then I heard, no, it's fake. Doesn't, so he's still in the market. And he was only 17 years old, and he was a fantastic player, playing for Crusaders, which is a big club in Belo Horizonte. And end of the day, we negotiate with his manager and his partners, you can say, that was entitled for 55% of the player, together with Ronaldo, and it was amazing. So we agreed with him that after World Championships was over, and he will come to us.